Now then, you are very welcome along. It is the latest in our series of GAA Roadshows in association with SuperValu. We are calling on GAA fans across the country to support where you're from. You can check out OTB social channels, get involved, win some great prizes, and you can check out facebook.com/SuperValu Ireland for more information. We've got a brilliant lineup for you this evening. It's a real Kerry-Cork theme for obvious reasons. They're playing this Sunday. To kick things off, my co-host for the evening, I am honoured, Kieran Donaghy. Hello.
Oh, how are you? How are you keeping?
I'm very well. Like I said, we have a great lineup this evening. Lots of memories. We're going to get stuck into all that. First, though, give us some thoughts on Kerry Cork this weekend. What way is this going to go?
I'm looking forward to Joe recovering it for off the ball. I think it's going to be tight. That's my honest opinion. I think Cork will be. Both teams haven't that much football played, so it's not like, there's a level of fluidity or understanding between forward units or whatever. So everyone's that bit rustier. And if you go back and look at a historic rivalry that's always been tight, and you've had the odd blowouts, obviously, both ways. But if you look back over a rivalry like Cavan and Monaghan that was on the weekend, a historic rivalry, two neighbouring counties, and very little between them on many occasions. No matter how well somebody's going, whether a crowd are in Division 1 and they're flying, and the other crowd are Division 3 and they're struggling, you put jerseys on them men and they're representing their county and they're going toe to toe with their local rivals. It's going to get interesting, and it's going to be, it's going to be dogged. It's going to be brilliant. It's knockout championship football. That brings a whole new set of pressures. There hasn't been a knockout game in Páirc Uí Chaoimh in 20 years between Kerry and Cork. So, there's nobody in that group has experienced that type of pressure. And believe you me, Joe, if this thing is tight with 10 minutes to go, that's when you're going to see this pressure show on one group or the other group. And it's really exciting for me, because I honestly think it's going to be a good game. 3 points separated the teams last year. Kerry let in 3 goals. They'll be working on that, and Cork will be looking at the 119 they conceded and trying to figure out how they tighten that up as well. So, if both teams get it right in the day, with the backroom team, with Dr. Cian O'Neill being blowing Cork and the physical shape that he would have added to this Cork team in the last 9 or 10 months, it's going to be a good one.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to that. In the meantime, we have 2 brilliant guests to bring you. So Kieran and I have sharpened our questions. We're going to bring them in now. 2 brilliant GAA men. We have Eoin Bomber Liston, no introduction required. 7 All-Irelands, 9 Munster medals, 4 All-Stars. And we have with us as well the most legendary doctor maybe in Irish sports, Dr. Con Murphy, and ever present with the Cork hurlers and footballers since 1976. 1976, Dr. Con has been with the Cork footballers and hurlers. Nicky English, a friend of his, described him as the greatest example of GAA volunteerism I've ever known. So you're both very welcome. Bomber, how you doing?
Thank you. All good, Joe.
Bomber, 4 All-Stars, that's a disgrace. You should deserve at least 7 or 8, no?
Well, I was wronged out of a good few of them, really. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm quite happy with my haul. So, no. They're hard to come by. So I'm very happy with my lot.
Good. And where do you keep? Did you got a plaque back in the day for an All-Star? Did you?
No. That was back. I'm way younger than that. That was way back in the 60s. In the 60s, you used to get plaques, but we got lovely molded bronze and silver, platinum, real expensive, lovely. There was 2 fellas jumping for a ball, kind of, Do you remember those ones? No, but anyway, they're lovely. Yep. I take them out every night and have a look at them before I go to sleep.
Bomber, if you weren't getting them, Bomber, who was getting them? You had tasty competition for the number 14, I would say, on those All-Star teams. You'd Matt Conner in a way, and Jimmy Keaveney.
You had Sean Lowry, Frank McGuigan. Frank McGuigan kicked, was it 15 points or something from play one day? In an Ulster final, yeah. He was a great footballer. I remember seeing him over in New York. I marked him. I went over there in 77 as a young fella, and Jesus, we were out, and anyway, this fella's boot hit my ear. I was up off the ground trying to catch a ball, and Jesus, his boot, he was up another 4 or 5 feet above me. But a superb player, Sean Lowry, great servant again. Played everywhere up the middle, I think, for Offaly. Fantastic footballer. So Jimmy Keaveney, everyone knows how good Jimmy was. Like, Then you had Declan Barron. You had, there was Jimmy Barry Murphy, Dinny Allen at times played inside full. Some great players. So Colin O'Rourke.
You couldn't let any of the Cork lads. So you were baiting them so much in Munster they couldn't get an All-Star.
What? Jeez, no, that's not the way it went at all. We had our good days, but we had our bad days as well. My last few years, 88, 89, 90, and 90. Was it 88, 89, 90?
Yeah.
They hurt a lot those years, and 93. Niall Cahalan putting the last nail into my boots, and when you get that curly finger to come off, not down in Park O'Keefe. So we've good memories and bad memories of the Cork derbies,
Dr. Conn, it's great to have you with us. I was reading that last December, Dr. Conn, you retired the day job on Mardyke Street. You called it a day. You hit 70. This is probably not the first year of retirement you were expecting.
It's funny all year, especially with COVID. So I handed over my practice to my son Colin, who's actually the doctor with the hurling team now. So good tradition.
How have
you mentioned there that I started with Cork in 1976, but I'd like to point out I was the mascot in 56. And some of my more cynical friends reckon I'm back where I started.
Stuff.
So I grew up, my dad played in 12 Munster finals. He spent his time giving out about Kerry and what a crowd of what they were. And I'd answer the door and there would be Jim Brosnan or Paddy Sheehy or Ty Lyne from Kerry coming in for his tea. So it was a funny upbringing.
Because your mother you took after, so Con, was it?
No, it was all... There's always been a good friendship between Cork and Kerry.
Con, you did a stint with the Kerry seniors as well? Or you covered them for games?
I did. It was interesting. In 1976, I wasn't long qualified. I spent a year in the hospital in Tralee, St. Catherine's. And to the year I started with Cork, which was by accident, really. You must remember that time there was no team doctors as such. There was no orthopaedic surgeon in Kerry, believe it or not. There was only one came down from Cork every few weeks. So sports injuries was unheard of. But so from my college days and from being out around the town at Tralee, I got to know the Kerry lads. They started coming into the hospital to me. Not that I was the new Santry of Tralee, but that...
I'd say you were an upgrade, though.
I was away to the X-ray machine for them. They could bypass everyone by coming to me. So Cork won the 76 hurling final. Nicola says to me, "Gee, you're looking after all the fellas in there. You might as well come with us." So in the 76 final, I strapped up the two cornerbacks and Paddy Manny. Paddy Manny collapsed after 20 minutes. I said to Paddy at half-time, "Geez, what happened to you?" He said, "Some fella threw something at me from the hill. In fact, he'd ruptured his Achilles tendon."
Oh, yeah, it's a sore one. Everybody thinks that's a... I've been around fellas and they've turned around and said, "Who kicked me?" That's a desperate injury.
To give you how different sports injuries were dealt with that time, Ger Power, a week before the All-Ireland final in 1980 against Roscommon, tore his hamstring badly. And he rang me. And on the Monday he came up and he saw a lady in CUH hospital in Cork, Frances Walsh, who was highly regarded. And he attended her twice a day for the week. He stayed with my mother. And on the Friday, myself and Ger went out to the Mardyke to do a fitness test. What was hard to believe was no one from Kerry came out with us. It was just the two of us. Now, Tom Spillane was there as well because he was on the minor team and I was checking on his ankle. But Power took a run and I said to him, you're in trouble there, you won't make it. He said, "I have to make it, I'm captain. This is a chance in a lifetime. Unless I unless I play, I don't take the cup. He said, you have to get me out on the pitch. Well, I said, it's not looking good. He said, what about an injection? I said, they don't work that well for hamstrings. Look, try it. So I gave him an injection. He took one run. He said, that's magic. And because I met him in the dressing room before they came. He says, what do you think? I said, it's a chance he'll last. So he said, we'll start him anyway. He lasted about 20 minutes and he came off at half time. I said to Mikko, said, give him another injection. I said, that won't work. So I said, he's gone. But to give you an idea how times have changed, I was inside the Jacks. And just before half time in that game, Mikey Sheehy scored a goal. And he came into the Jacks. And I said, great goal there, Mikey. And he says, what goal? I said, that goal you got there before half time. Blank look in his face. So we went out to Mick and I says, come here, Mick, you not a problem? No, he said, Mikey, don't remember scoring the goal. He says, tell him we'll show it to him tomorrow. That was it. Off he went. Played away.
Concussions and ruptured hamstrings weren't a big deal back in the day.
No. I mean, today now all those guys ended up in the clinic and MRIs and what have you. The following year then, Mikey came up to me on the Friday evening, 2 days before the 81 final, with Joe Keohane. He couldn't kick the ball. He said his foot was killing him. So we went out to the dike, and the only ball we could get was a rugby ball, believe it or not. And I injected his foot. He practiced on it, and he said, that'll do. I went up the day of the match, injected him. And the following week, Austin Stacks played in the county final. He said, if we win this, he said, I'll be captain of Kerry. So I went down again and injected him. And on the Monday, he rang me. He says, I can't walk. He got an X-ray, broken bone in his foot. Now, today's player would have an MRI and be in a cast that night. I mean, fellas did different things that time. It was way different.
What was the injection, Con? What were you putting into the boys then?
Local anaesthetic. It's what you get if you went to the dentist. You know, it just deadened the area around it. Well, there was less sophistication. There were no clinics. You know, there were no specialists around. I was just a friend of the lads, really. You know, that's the only reason I did. I mean, the funny thing is, I always made my own way to the match. I got my own ticket. I used to get a ticket for this whatever side the Kerry dressing room was on. No one made a fuss about it. No one knew about it. There was no Twitter or anything like that. So
times were tough.
They just made a lot. They made a lot of good friends.
I know he's the soundest Corkman. I know he's the soundest Corkman to ever walk the planet, Bomber. But were you okay with a Cork fella walking around the Kerry dressing room on All Ireland final day and semi-final, etc.?
I'll tell you, I wasn't at the start. I remember going to Mikko at one stage saying, geez, will you get rid of that Cork fella, especially before the Munster final? I said, Jesus, he'll know all our injuries and he'll be telling the Cork lads and they'll know exactly where to focus. And he said, you have your game. I said, where would you have that? He said, no, the lads want it. I was raging with the lads and I said it to a few of them and he said, no, Con is sound. This was before I got to know him. And so eventually, anyway, we went out. We won the All Ireland that year and we went on a trip. And I was introduced to him over in San Francisco. And Ogie and myself bumped into him down Fisherman's Wharf. Do you remember that, Con? About 65 years ago, I'd say.
And Paddy.
Down anyway. Huh? And Paddy was married at the time, yeah. That's right. God rest him. So next thing anyway, we said we go for a cup of coffee and led to a few pints. And outside the window there was this entertainer with a dog. And this dog, a terrier, that what he couldn't do wasn't worth doing anyway. He could jump through hoops, he could somersault clockwise. He could stand in one leg, stand in his nose, nearly anything he could do. And after a big show anyway, Con shouts out, is that all he can do? And the whole place erupted. But that was my first time meeting Con. And got to know each other. It was a kind of a long session. And I must say I apologised to him after anyway, because I told him what I'd said to Mikko to get rid of him. But I didn't have the same influence that time. I was only new after coming on the job. But we ended up to the best thing ever anyway. We're friends for the last 40 years because of it. And he's been very good to me, in fairness. And I had trouble one time there with prostate cancer, and diagnosed it and sorted me out. And I'm forever grateful to him and made a great friend anyway. Thanks. Con, I just wanted to put that on record.
Thanks, Pam. On that trip, Paddy had Mara on our honeymoon. They were on their honeymoon. But Paddy brought us out 3 or 4 nights to different Irish pubs in San Francisco. And there was a fella called Tommy Burke playing the squeeze box. Yeah. God, it nearly wrecked our heads. Do you remember that, Pam?
I do.
And I said to Paddy, what are we following this fella around San Francisco for? And Paddy said to me, he'll come home and stay with me for a week and he'll fill the pub by. That's all about.
Con, just going back to the point there that Bomber makes, about how grateful he is to you. I was doing a bit of research in advance of this chat and just found player after player after player talking about all the bits and bobs you did for them. Tomás O'Shea, he said, I could go to that man with any problem and he'll reassure me things will be okay. It's a rare gift. I'd say I could nearly murder someone and Con would still make me feel he had my back. I had Joe Dean, when he had testicular cancer, he called into your house. He said you were in tears, he was in tears, and you were a huge support to him. And then Donal Lenihan, who I know you're good friends with through the rugby, he was saying a while back, we'd meet about once a month for lunch, and not a lunch goes by where his phone doesn't go off and a fella from Kerry or Galway or wherever is looking for something or some advice or an illness and wants a second opinion. I reckon Con gets invited to around 15 weddings a year. And on it goes, on it goes. So it seems like you see people when they're at their most vulnerable, and lots of players turn to you. Can you give us a sense of that, or your experiences over the years of that?
Well, I've got to know a lot of sports people over the years. So I've been involved with the Cork hurling and football team since '76. But my local pub was the Western Star, where all the rugby fellas used to go. So that's where I got friendly with Donal Lenihan and fellas like that. It wasn't all very scientific. I was just a guy that they all got to know, really. And it was a great honour to look after all of them over the years. I enjoyed it.
The point they make is that you are a brilliant people person. I mean, one side of it is the medicine, but you also almost treat the patient as well, who comes to you probably feeling very worried. Does that come naturally to you, or is that something you work on?
I say I inherited that from my father. He similar personality. But I wouldn't be conscious of it myself.
Right. And
I'm honoured that you say that.
Well, it seems to be all the other people saying it about you. What do you try and do when someone comes to you and they're worried? Is it just a case of listening, or do you try and reassure them, or they tend to be in shock half the time?
I'm a good listener, and I'm a good guy to get a fella sorted out. I have good contacts. I'd say that's one of the main things.
Okay.
I have a good mobile phone, and
okay,
so good battery.
That's one of the main things I'd say.
I heard a few of them say that. Go to Dr. Con and he'll point you in the right direction. He'll get something sorted for you quickly.
But I'll tell you, you were saying about he's good for bits and bobs. He got no bobs from any of the Kerry lads anyway. I tell you, he wouldn't take a penny, and just God only knows how much he's owed. So whenever you send that invoice anyway, it is nearly about time to start writing those invoices now.
I tell you,
now that you've retired,
there'll be a fair few county boards to get some land if his invoice landed in the door for all the service he did.
Bomber, I'll bring you in on this as well, and even Kieran, I'm sure you have your own thoughts. So you mentioned there you got to see Miko in a dressing room, and I make it you've seen 9 All-Ireland Cork winning managers in action, be it football or hurling down the years, Con. What makes a great manager, or what was it about these people who could inspire groups to lead? I'm sure they did it in different ways, but were there certain commonalities?
Well, I've seen Miko in action. Like, his team talk was leave the ball into the bomber. I give Billy Morgan as a classic example of a manager who got the best out of fellas because he was very passionate and very emotional. For the last 10 years, he's been training the UCC Sigerson team, which is half Cork, half Kerry. And the respect he has from the Kerry fellas, you wouldn't believe it, you know. He's very passionate and very emotional. And it brings out the best in fellas. They die for him. That's the secret. He's straight with guys as well. Do you agree with that, Owen?
I absolutely. I remember Billy coming into our bar when I was about 6 or 7 years old. The Nemo team used to come down to Ballybunion that time in their holidays. Frank Hogan and himself and all the lads, and I have good memories of all the sing-songs and all that, and I never threw him out or anything. But a few years later, we had a bit of a run-in there at some match, and but I must say, knowing Billy now, Billy wears his heart on his sleeve, and I must say I have fantastic respect for him. Fabulous passion for the game, and he just wants to win, and he's a lot of friends in Kerry, and once he put in the book anyway that my collision with him was an accident, that sorted everything anyway, you know. What collision? Yeah.
What collision is right? Go on, tell us what collision.
Can tell that
Just,
one.
Well, we'll say there was a 50-50 ball. Owen was bigger than Billy. Billy woke up 20 minutes later. I says, "Do you remember the game?" He says, "No." I said, "You're lucky." He says, "Okay."
Bomber used to always tell me, Con, that there was no such thing as a 50-50 ball when it came in between him and someone else.
Bomber rang me the following day. Owen rang me the following day to know where was Billy. I said, "He's in the hospital." He said, "I want to ring him about the accident." So I rang Billy first, and I said, "Bomber is ringing you there about the accident." "Accident?" he says. "What accident?" "There was no accident." So we made it up anyway.
Yeah, we made it up anyways, right.
Jeez, I didn't know that was your style, Bomber. Is that right? I'm learning something here.
Once a fella ran into me, but you're like, so, as I said, I was the airbag, you know, you couldn't get hurt. But that time, whatever happened, whatever way I timed it, I was looking back that way, trying to catch a ball like that. You'd want to be in television to really spot what I'm doing there now, but it was a genuine accident. Yeah. Genuine accident. And geez, I remember looking down at him and saw the two eyes looking back into the back of his head, and I thought I'd done serious damage to him, you know. I got a fright, right. But thank God he's fine since.
Okay. And Con mentioned Miko there saying get the ball into Bomber. What was he like pre-match? Was he emotional? Would he use carrot with some fellas and stick with other fellas? Was it the same with everyone? Was he distant? Was he close to the players?
Miko?
Yeah.
Miko, he'd get fairly emotional in the dressing room. I remember one time there, he was giving a speech and we were all around the table and his false teeth fell out. During the talk, he was roaring, you know, and hitting with the Lucasade bottle, and he just put his hand over them and continued. And I was just about to burst out laughing and looked around, but no, there was no reaction from anyone else, so I just moved on. I don't think any of them even saw it, you know. But he'd get fairly emotional, but definitely he was a great man manager. It was a hand around some people, just a coolness with you other days. If you weren't performing, you'd know it. You'd know he was sulking with you, like, kind of, you know. Right. And the communication wouldn't be there, the smile wouldn't be there. He'd a way of getting a message to you, you know, you're not doing the job. And but he had great man manager skills. Like, all the players were mad about him. Really enjoyed, massive respect for him, and he kept us together for so many years there and looked after us so well with trips. Sure, we'll forever be indebted to him.
Did you get slagged for being his pet, Bomber?
Well, like, we used to pick the team together, himself and myself, you know. I nearly got rid of the doctor, I told you there. If I had another year with him, I'd have got rid of Con as well there at that stage. But I'm sure I get slagged, of course. Like, but you see, I was down in Waterville, so he was my trainer down there. We'd be going up to training maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays, but he'd have me Mondays and Wednesdays. Don't keep fit below, and so it was. I couldn't escape from him. So I did a deal with him anyway that you can't kill me every night. Cut back. I'd rather a little bit every night rather than being killed 2 nights. So he spread the load. That's the way I think you would put it. So we came to an understanding that way, and he sometimes forgot it.
What was his talk around? He obviously had the most lethal inside forward line, and I know the football was a bit simpler back there tactically wise, but was there anything that you were expecting, or when his tactical speech or his tactical talk around getting it in, was it as basic as get it in, or was there science that if we go down a line to try and get it across, or was I always fascinated because it was catch and kick, we know that looking back in it, but there was a lot of style with some of the kick passing in there too.
But sure, I was looking over the COVID-19 there. I was looking at some of the matches. Sure, Jeannie Mac, the ball, if we had fellas kicking in good ball to us, I'd have had about 10 or 12 all-stars here. Did you see the quality of the balls coming in there? But
I did. I noticed you were one-on-one as well, though.
But what he used to do, he was just get us to spread out. And he knew the importance of space. He'd keep giving out every night. He'd blow the whistle. Look where you are, all in together. Get out, move out, and keep moving. Which made an awful lot of sense, really, like, because, it became more one-on-one then, like.
Yes.
Kieran, do you remember the time he'd 100 shares in Austin Stacks? When I was leaving Tralee in 76, Mikey very kindly gave me the number 14 long sleeve jersey he wore in the All-Ireland final in 75, which I thought was lovely touch.
Yes.
He said, "Thank God you're going," he says. "I haven't kicked the ball since you came down there." we were out day and night.
Mikey, when Bomber was when he was saying keep space, was it kind of, was a part of it to get it into you and have Egan and Sheehan coming off you, or Egan and Mikey coming off you at angles, or Pat coming in off or Augie coming in off you at the 40? Was it a focal point? Because I know when I was in there in 06 and 07 with Kerry, when I started the kind of whole full forward thing, Jack was very conscious about getting it into me and getting the boys in around me, coming off me, and obviously if the simple ball was on to Gooch, you obviously gave it to him 100 times out of 100, but his focus was to try and get it in. And I always felt when there was a clear focus to get it in, it was a bit easier to play. Everybody knew what was going on rather than people playing off the cuff.
I don't think I can't ever remember Miko saying kick it into Bomber, Being honest, his philosophy was quick, fast, snappy football, ball into space, plenty movement at pace, give the ball to the man in the best possession. If we could create space, then often a corner forward would come out. We had a tactic that to play the ball into that corner, and I just make sure that I was standing at that side of the man. It was simple enough stuff, really, but it was still very relevant, that he didn't want fellas looking at the O'Neills on the ball. When a fella got a ball, move it fast to the man in the best position, give it up to the fellas that can score. And he didn't like halfbacks going forward. For many years, even though in the 70s and 75, 6, 7, there was a lot of attacking halfbacks. But I think after losing in 76 and 77, he kind of wanted more or less the forwards to be left alone above, and that they'll figure it out, and just plenty movement and give the ball to the man in the best position.
Yeah, I suppose you did a few decent fellas up there, in fairness to you.
I had.
Con, could I ask you, Con, and we'll get Bomber's thoughts on this as well. So if we're doing a Cork Kerry memory lane trip here, so 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, Kerry beat Cork in Munster. 1983, you managed to beat them, but then again, 84, 85, 86, 87, not 87 in fact, just up to 86, it's Kerry again. So of those 9 years, 8 times Kerry beat Cork. You must have been sick of them.
It was incredibly painful. You have no idea. But I always remember 1990 was the best day we had. We hammered them down the park. And I can remember where I was standing with Larry Tompkins after the game, having a few pints. And we said, "Fuck him, now we have him." He said, they'll be down for a few years. Jeez, that was great. We had a good team. Down to Killarney the following year, beaten again. That was a killer for me. I thought we were about to go on a roll, but no, it's just tough going.
And it must have been so tough for you to train so hard all winter into the summertime, and then boom, you're against this brilliant team, season over again, and to pick yourselves up again year after year.
Yeah, you see, no backdoor then. We could have done it way better if there was a backdoor. But every year Mick would come into us, this is true, and tell us we were the second best team in Ireland. There were no prizes for that, But can I just make a comment about the present situation with the COVID and that?
Sure.
I think it might show players and all of us that the game had got too serious, which it has, in my opinion. There was way more fun that time. We didn't train. We trained hard, but not as hard. And I think things might steady up a bit after this.
Right. You think it's out of whack, Con?
I do. I mean, you don't need to look at the vote on whether we should play or not to see what senior players thought. 52% of fellas didn't want to play. Mm. And they're obviously from the counties that see themselves having no chance. We're in danger of becoming elitist if we're not careful.
And whenabouts did the change really happen for you, Con? When did we cross that line of it maybe not being worth it for too many?
I suppose in the last 10 years, really.
Right.
I mean, you have to take your hat off to the Dubs now. They're fantastic. And I'm not pointing the finger at Dublin, but it is not encouraging for the weaker counties to kill themselves for the winter, to be hammered in the summer,
Bomber, you were coming in there?
I'm saying the Kerry lads would sacrifice anything to play. And there's loads of counties where you have a reasonable chance of winning. Donegal, Tyrone, Dublin, Mayo, Galway, they're putting in huge effort and they love it and that. But I think what I would agree with you, Con, this year is that they got a chance to play with their club more. And that they really enjoyed that. And they became part of the club, because you can often be a county player and you just don't get many chances to go out and there's a kind of a dominoes can often happen. Now, I was lucky in Ogie, we were lucky it didn't happen to us, because in our time you were allowed to play loads of matches with your club. You could play, I played a match the night before. I had to play my first championship match in 78. Wow. I had to play with my club the night before over in Guinea-Gilla. So I'm only just saying we got loads of chance to play with our club. But in the last 20 years, you had county players were just strictly nearly playing with the county 90% of the time, 95% of the time. And they missed out on an awful lot there, because the fellas they grew up with, they were they didn't really know them the way they should know them. And I think that was the beauty of this, where you had a half a season, you play with your club and you die with your club, and then you're in good enough shape, you come in then and you play with your county and die with your county.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my speak. No.
No, Bomber, you're 100%. I agree with you, because I've done both, and I played with the club this year, and I probably had one of the most enjoyable years. With the lads. We ended up winning the club final, but the county final we got beaten by the Crokes. But still, the enjoyment of just getting a bit of a run, getting loads of trainings, as you exactly say, that just familiarity to get to know fellas. What happens, county players now, is they come out after their county season is over. They may have 2 training sessions. The county's going to bang on the county championship straight away. And you, however long you're in it, or however long it takes, it might be a month, it might be 5 weeks, it's over. And then you want to get away from football, because you've been at it for 11 months. You want a break, you want to get away. So you want nothing to do with it. But I think the biggest thing on the GAA calendar next year, and this will relate back to Off the Ball, it'll relate back to all the outlets, the Tailteann Cup next year. If that's not handled correctly, if we don't give this competition the respect it deserves, if we don't big it up, if we don't cover it, if we don't put the final on the same day the All-Ireland final is on, or give it the day before and try and try and because you see in these Division 3 and Division 4 games, you see the quality of games, the excitement levels we're getting are serious. So I think if they mind this, and they really do put a job of promoting it, showing live games, making sure these players know that if I put my effort in, as Dr. Khan rightly said, if I put my effort in all through the winter, at least I'm going out and I'm going to be competitive. And it gives you focus on both sides. It gives you focus on your championship experience, and it gives you focus on what you do in the league, because obviously your league determines whether you're in the Sam Maguire or the Tailteann Cup. So I think it creates extra competition in both the league, and then when you get into your championship, yes, you mightn't be able to go for Sam this year, but you might have a young team coming through, and you start talking to that team and you start building them up, and you start saying, we're in the Tailteann Cup this year now and we're going to give it a right good rattle. That's a great focus for a team. They get a few wins, they spend longer in the championship, the management get to know them a bit better, they get a bit of confidence. As Dr. Khan says, they might enjoy it a bit. They get the experience of winning a few games rather than training all year, playing league games and then going out in the championship and, as you say, getting hammered by a big name and almost embarrassed by a big name and crawling off the pitch and kind of going, no, I'm not coming back to do that next year. So I think it's a crucial juncture for the GAA that we get this Tailteann Cup right, and that it's not treated like what was the old one, Bomber, they brought out? What was that B championship they brought out there 10 or 15 years ago? What was it?
Tommy Murphy,
I never played B, Kieran.
Bomber, you killed me, Bomber. I tell you, Bomber, in '93 you should have been playing B. Because, Bomber, I saw the size of your jersey, the '93 jersey. Someone asked me to sign it before the 2014 All-Ireland final. Do you know, you do your fans there.
That was a special one that was made up. That was a special one that was made up as a joke.
This fella put this jersey over the railing, and I said, I pulled it out. I said, what is this? He goes, that's the Bombers jersey from '93.
It's like a duvet.
Yeah, no, you're after spoiling my big
I have feelings too, Kieran. I have feelings too, Kieran.
Bomber, I know, I was there with you, boy. Don't worry about it.
And Con, can I ask you, is the modern player, and you don't have to break confidence, do you suspect the modern player is looking at the situation at the moment? I don't mean the COVID one, I just mean generally, say, over the last decade, looking at the thing and saying, Jesus, this is out of control? Or do they not want to be training lots? Do they not want to make the most of their abilities while they have a short window to do it?
I think they find it's a bit much.
Right.
That would be my honest opinion. But I see today Croke Park have changes in foot now. Shorter season next year or the year after next. So the club will get more priority, which I think is a good thing.
Right, okay.
I must tell a story of Paddy Shea when he started his coaching career. I brought him up to UCC in 1991. I rang him up and I said, your CV for coaching is blank. We've a machine up here, come up. We win the series and you're on your way. So he came up for 2 years. We didn't win a round of it. But the last time he was with the team, he played St. Mary's above in Belfast, and Peter Canavan destroyed us. And we were coming round the bus, the two of us with the team. And I said to Paddy, this is your last time with this gang now. I said, they've broken their ass for you. Stand up and thank them and wish them well in their futures and that their careers go well, and we leave it at that. So the two of us were getting out in Dublin, throwed his bag, turned to me and he says, feck him, he says, they left me down. That was it, gone. No speech.
No mercy. I've a last question for each of you before we wrap up. Con, can I ask you, because I did want to ask you, so since 1976, and we'll just keep it to Cork, it's already an impossible question, but so in the hurling and the football, you have seen some geniuses at work. Could you give me a favourite player of yours in each code?
Gary Tompkins in football, Brian Corcoran in hurling.
All right. No doubts. Why is that? What do they have?
You weren't ready for that, Joe.
No, I thought you'd at least pretend it was a tough question.
I thought Larry Tompkins was the best player I saw play with Cork. The best player from Cork was Stephen O'Brien. So there's a subtle difference there. Hurling-wise, Brian Corcoran, he won the 99 All-Ireland for us from centre-back. He was our star player. And he came back a few years later and he won 2 All-Irelands. Without him, we wouldn't have won them, I think. So he'd be my favourite hurler.
Okay. And Bomber, before you go, who's going to stop Dublin this year?
Kerry. I think if anyone is going to stop them, to be Kerry. I think Kerry are. I see a lot of improvements in the last few matches. If we can read much into them, but they seem to have tightened up a bit in defence, which was the big problem. I do think we've a team that'll score enough, and there's a lot of hunger there, a lot of fitness, a lot of maturity and experience there now, and but it'll take a huge effort to beat that Dublin team, even after losing the lads, and the new manager and everything. A new manager can often just be what a team, when just what they need on the road to squeeze another few years out of them. But I think Kerry have a right chance this year.
Okay, very good. Kieran, any last question you want to get into the two lads before we wrap up?
Is that an ab cruncher machine behind your head, Bomber, there on the ground? Is it?
What?
Is that an ab machine behind you? What's that black machine behind you? Is that an ab cruncher, the old-fashioned ab cruncher?
No. That's where under that I keep all the Mars bars. That's a special little case. They're locked away there, No,
it was in my eye line for the whole interview, Joe, and I was just picturing Bomber getting down to do two sets of 50 on the ab cruncher there.
I'm glad you've noticed anyway, Kieran, the change in shape.
I know to change the shape, and during COVID, Joe, myself and Bomber don't live far from each other.
Oh yeah.
And during the first lockdown, there was a little cockle shell road down about 2 kilometres from our door, and it was it's a little inlet into Tralee Bay, and Bomber was walking from one side of it, and I used to walk from the other side of it or drive down with the kids. And he put in a serious off-season now, Joe. I tell you, there'll be definitely 4 or 5 minutes in and below in Parky Queeve on Sunday if we badly needed
it. Once an athlete, always an athlete. I never thought I'd get the chance of saying that ever.
Yes.
Come here, actually. I was reading, Bomber, before we go. I know you love your golf. Jesus, your dad spent the best £300 I've ever heard spent.
That's right, yeah. He bought 1970, I was 12 or 13. He bought me life membership in Ballybunion Golf Club, for £300.
Bomber, you must have seen some big American names flying in. They like Ballybunion, don't they?
They do, and they love Tralee as well. The both courses, they're 2 fantastic courses. We can't go there at the moment, but we'll get back there again. But they've been improving Tralee even now. They've made some fantastic improvements to a very good course. 2 superb courses. We're very lucky to have them on our doorstep, and delighted to be a member of both of them.
I'd say you are. Jeez, that's money well spent. £300 for life membership there. Bloody hell.
Yeah, and after that plug for Tralee, now I'll probably have life membership in Tralee as well, you see.
Right. Well, listen, on that note, Bomber Liston, thanks very much. Great to talk to you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Dr. Conn, you're involved still. You're there on Sunday, aren't you?
I am, yeah, I am.
Good man. Well, listen,
Hopefully.
Enjoy that and go well. And geez, amazing. 1976, still at it. So listen, great to talk to you both. Bomber Liston, Dr. Conn, thanks very much. We are in the midst of our SuperValu Roadshow, and it's the latest in our series of roadshows. In association with SuperValu, we're calling on GAA fans across the country to support where you're from. You can check out our social channels. You can get involved and win some great prizes there, and you can check out facebook.com/SuperValu Ireland for more information. So that was Owen Bomber Liston and Dr. Conn Murphy. Stay with myself and Kieran Donaghy. More great guests to come.